This was the scene here in Weston, St. James on Tuesday, August the 31st, 2021, 26 years and a few weeks after that great flood of 1995. It is indeed a true saying. History is more than the path left by the past. It influences the present and can shape the future. Oh, that we would adhere to its many lessons. I'm Sherwood McCaskie. This is My Community. The program this week is led by John Quinton, followed by the images as seen through the lenses of the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation, the images of Weston during that period in 1995.
This stone here is a testament to the kinds of debris that actually came down. This was one of the largest stones. There were several others. This was one of the largest stones. Over the other side was where Carew lived. I knew Carew. Once you grew up in Weston, you knew Carew. Because as little boys, he lived by the seaside, and right below the fire station, there was a public bath. So as little boys, we would go over there and bathe on mornings before we went to St. Albans School. And after we came out of the bath, we would just run up right across the street and into Douglas Road naked as we were born, little boys. At the time, it was not seen in any bad way. It wouldn't seem strange. We were just running up through the neighborhood. So I knew Carew. And Carew was very friendly to my church, the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We were having a crusade program at the church. And he had been attending. I don't know, someone invited him, but he would never come inside. He would always stay on the outside and look through the window. It was around August, the early part of August, and he said that he had to sing for his fans. And he had a very popular calypso at the time. It was called Snake in the Grass.
There's in the grass, down that way, the real fast. Go run, there's the run, sure, get your back down right.
But that particular day, he was washed away. He didn't make it. It was sad. Everybody felt sad because he was loved in the community. He was a community person. And he was a funny guy. We never knew that he could actually sing or anything like that.
Carew always was down here with the boys, always giving us some tune. You know what I mean? We give you one tune for Carew down here in the market. When Carew got time, Carew give you a tune. Carew always with the boys. And it was so for years, for all the years we know Carew always was a community man down here.
He would say things like, okay, we would say things, say, you all know him as Carew, but we would call him Glenn. So if you call him Carew, he may not answer. And sometimes when you call him Glenn, he answered. And then sometimes when you call him Carew, he answered. So he was a funny guy, but he lived on the seaside. And they said he couldn't swim. I don't know that part about him, but I do know. And some people say to me from time to time, I didn't know you'd gone through the flood. You've gone through a terrible experience like that. But could you swim? Swim? How can you swim in water that's probably 30 feet deep? With all charged with electrical wires. Well, electrical wires, you have stones, you have houses, you have all kinds of debris that was coming down at such a terrific speed. Swimming was totally impossible. I was just knocked to the ground like that and out the house. That's all I could remember. It was a terrifying experience. So you were trying to survive, swim, and you were right down, you were groveling against the floor of the road. That's where you were. It was a devastating experience. So swimming was not possible. You had no chance. You couldn't surmount the obstacles to get that high up from the floor where you were. You were knocked down and you were taken away. And it was fast. It didn't happen. It was not something that happened slowly. It was something it just happened. You're knocked down, you're gone. And that was it. That was it. This community that was so peaceful and so pleasant and where we had such fond memories, they were all shattered in a day.
When I was 4 years old in 1995, this big rock right here came from up in Westmoreland side, coming down to the gully, washed with my uncle's house. I was a kid at that time, 4 years old. That morning really excited too because first catalog box we get, cricketed characters, cards, everything. So the box we went, we opened the box, and we had me, I get currently walked. My brother had Barry Lara for himself. And we started to trade the cards. That's when my uncle come and told us, yeah, the gully's flooded out. I needed some help to move some things. He had to go back inside and rush and vehicle everybody to rush them out to the house. When we went and looked to observe everything, the whole gully was flooded. This rock here get pushed from all up in the gully, all down here with the waters. When we checked, Carew house was down washed away. Standing to see Carew on top of the waters. Helps, waving for help, and nobody can get to him because they had no boat at that time. I don't know. Bring it back in the memories now.
I was looking out through the window when the water was coming down, right? So it never came down so before. For the past 5 years I was living there, right? So I was watching the water outside. So after I saw the bath fall down, the toilet, I said this is danger, so I have to do something. So I went into the bedroom to get a pants to put on, but I could not. It was too late for that. So I just heard the foundation of the house, you know, the noise, and the house start shaking. So I opened the front door, and then I was trembling there. I start screaming, open the front door, and go up the hill. I didn't even pass through the side door, because if I had passed through the side door, I wouldn't be here talking to you all today. So I went up the hill. As soon as I get 1 foot into the road, I look back, I just see this big gush of water come down and wash away the house one time. And yeah.
What about your children?
My children was next door. It's a good thing they was next door. Yeah.
Tell me something. What's the value of the things and the property you've lost approximately?
Oh Lord, oh God, I can't. It's thousands of dollars, because I had my chairs, my video, my television, my kitchen cabinet. I had 3 beds in there, stove, fridge, my toaster oven, my blender, everything I have in here. Yeah.
It was your personal house as well?
The house is not mine. I was renting. Yeah.
How long have you been living in Barbados?
November coming will be 19 years.
And what are you going to do from now on? What are your plans?
I don't know yet. I don't know my plans. Yeah. Because, yeah.
On Wednesday night, it was a real tragedy, because me and my 2 kids was inside, right? We was there reading the newspaper, right? My boyfriend had left here, and then the same time, but while we was there, I just see the house just start cracking, it just started opening on us. And then the same time, me and the 2 children, we just start screaming, you know, and bawling. And then my first daughter, she just opened the front door, and then she just rushed outside. And then the same time, you know, well, what happened? She was going down in the water. She was as though she was going to drown. And then the same time, my mind told me to follow, you know, to go ahead and hold she. And then I went out with she with my other daughter, the last one. And then we all go together. And while we was going, the wave was also pulling us back. But yeah, the wave was also pulling us back. And then the same time, we tried and escape, and we went, and then we go by a neighbor and try to get some help.
Tell me something. You've lost your entire belongings, your properties and all that?
Yeah, we lost everything, everything what we have in the house, everything. Nothing, we don't, nothing, everything is gone. I just can't believe it. It's just unbelievable. It's really a great experience to me. I can't believe it. I really can't believe it.
Houses that was there than there. You know what I mean? But the most important thing to me that when I saw my daughter coming towards me, and I felt 100% safe. I didn't mind that all the contents or my belongings are gone, but I saw my daughter and I was felt very comfortable afterwards. But then, just disaster struck me. It's just, that's all I could really talk about.
Was your house or property insured?
No, nothing was. It was a rent house I was renting at the time being, and actually all of my things just damaged. I have all my car full of water, everything like that. So just, what you see is just better than saving them, because it's just, I'm going to start all over again.
So you live there with you and what?
And my daughter. My girlfriend is in the United States. I don't know that.
Was this indeed purely a natural disaster? The point here that I'd like to make is that I heard yesterday on the news, and even this morning, that this is a natural disaster. It is not. in my opinion, a natural disaster. Somewhere up in the hills above Weston, a massive body of water must have built up somewhere. Now, whether it was man-made or natural, I can't say, but at 12 o'clock yesterday, 3 feet of water came gushing down this hill with trees. You see the tree in the garden there? I mean, that's a massive tree, came down too, demolishing things in its path. And people here were at massive risk. And I would like this to be understood that it is not a natural disaster. Something here happened above the hill which caused the proportions that you see here today.
Behind me is the mouth to the gully. This gully is approximately 30 to 40 minutes upstream, uphill, on foot. It's a rough road, but it's about 30, 40 minutes and going inside. And there's some boulders that are in there, I guess still to this day, but we would have seen them immediately after the flood. Some pretty large ones, some about as large as large as a small car. But this is the area where the water would have come down, not through here. This is the natural flow of the bridge, but the other set would have come through here and found its way mainly down through Douglas Road and spilling on either side of the banks to wash away some of the houses.
One of the many questions residents of Weston are asking, residents like the owner of this house, or what was once a house, in fact it was a concrete block house, a stone house, picked up and washed away like so much driftwood. As in the case of Spikestown in 1984, when many residents blamed the newly built bypass road for damming the water, many residents here are asking what caused this disaster.
Years ago, this area had tunnels, and about a year ago, the water had damaged it, and these come and fill it up solid. Town country plan allowed this to fill it up solid, and then bag all these millions of gallons of water. It had the way to pass, and then it bust down here and went down there till the way force.
So you are of the impression that this
is the cause of the damage. This bridge up here was the cause of the damage because they had nowhere for the water to come out. It was a solid bridge. This had to say solid boulders was down here. He brings boulders and treat down here and fill it up solid that heavy equipment can pass across it. Nowhere at all for the water to pass. And it bagged millions of gallons of water up in here. And when it burst it come down there till the way force. Right down here. That caused the damage all down there. Wash away houses, kill people all down there.
Then Attorney General and Home Affairs Minister David Simmons, now Sir David, was on the scene.
It appears that the source of the problem is a bridge and a gully east of this area, more towards Westmoreland, Upper Carrollton area. And it broke away and threw all of that water down on these poor, unfortunate people. Now, I am advised both by Mr. Archer of MTW and from a private engineer that we ought to leave it as it is, leave the situation as it is. Don't try to rehabilitate it just yet, certainly, because there's a culvert whose circumference is so narrow that may indeed have contributed to the problem, and to try to close and streamline the area now might open us up for further difficulties. But we are pretty confident on the advice that has been given that if we leave the gully area and the bridge in that area as they now are, that it is unlikely that there will be a recurrence of the problem that manifested itself yesterday. Now that of course has implications, because assuming that advice to be reliable, and I'm not questioning it, then we can try to rebuild the homes of these persons who have lost them. The National Housing Corporation believes that it has the capacity to rebuild many or all of the homes, but of course there will necessarily be the need to mobilize additional workmen over the weekend and during the next week. What I gave you about the problems of the gully and the road that crosses the gully was the advice of Mr. Archer based on his touring of the site and his assessment as an engineer. Within less than 24 hours, you cannot expect that we can have definitive information pointing to a conclusion that is entirely cast iron. This is a preliminary opinion, and I'm sure by next week we'll be in a better position to tell you more and in more technical detail as to how the problem originated and therefore what is necessary to prevent a recurrence and to offer an immediate or medium-term solution. CERO had a list of damaged houses and so on, island-wide, that had been reported. I checked that list at Whole Town, and that list did not include 3 wall houses at Whole Town on the side of the church, opposite the police station, which are very badly damaged. The list didn't include the damage at the police station, the damage at the post office. We are doing some cleaning up work there now, but the roof at the post office, the new post office, the roof leaked like a sieve and all the ceiling materials have come in. But it's being cleaned up, so it would be too early to hazard a guess. The social survey will help us determine the value of the loss in this area, because one of the questions that will be asked and answered is what was the value of your property? And we could do some multiplications at the end of the day, easy. But island-wide, we are still collecting the data. As I said, there are 3 wall houses there in Whole Town that are very badly damaged. 2 cars that were in the garages are written off as a result of the backup of water. So information is coming in as we go along. Arrangements are being made by the Social Welfare Department, the Ministry of Health, the National Housing, and CERO generally to provide supplies and whatever help or comfort is needed over the next 5 days to Tuesday as an immediate and first response. As an immediate and first response. We are looking to offer as much assistance as we can for the next 5 days to all the persons in this area who have been distressed. So it would be useful if they would come tomorrow morning, tell us their needs, and we will respond and address those needs.
That promise by Sir David was kept. Here's how the events were reported by the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation on the night of August the 4th.
Good evening, I'm Michelle Hinkson, and this is the CBC Evening News for Friday, August 4th, 1995. There's a mixture of good and bad news from the disaster district of Weston in St. James. CBC Special Assignments reporter Tim Slinger gives us the details.
Weston, St. James, a district that went to sleep last night uncertain about its future. Today, the scars are a grim reminder of a fishing village which fell victim to the fury of a tropical wave. Among those viewing the seemingly unbelievable damage were Governor General Dame Nita Barrow and Anglican Bishop Rufus Brooms. Bishop Brooms spoke to CBC Evening News about the disaster.
I did not believe that the extent of the damage until I was able to see it for myself. Completely devastated by the whole, all that has happened. And I think we can only thank God that it's taken place yesterday during the day and not at night, because I'm sure there would have been the loss of life. We should be doing our best as members of the Anglican Church to see what we can do to help those that have lost and those things, those have been displaced.
Residents were, however, adamant that a bridge at Westmoreland, located just behind the Western District, was responsible for the tidal wave flow of water.
Years ago, this here had tunnels, and about a year ago, the water had damaged it, and these come and fill it up solid, towing country plant load this and fill it up solid, and then bag all these millions of gallons of water. It had the way to pass, and then it bust down there, went down there till the way force.
So you are of the impression that this is
the cause of the damage.
But amidst all the damage and loss of property, there was one concern that was bigger than anything else. Where is the district's most popular son, Dennis Blackman, more popularly known as Carew the Calypsonian? We got some eyewitnesses' accounts of the last time Carew was seen alive.
And I was inside on the phone as I saw Carew's house being washed out with him in it. Right? You can see there now where the post is there near the fishing boats. And I waved to them and he was waving too. I tried to get in the water, but it was impossible because it was the water was rushing out too fast.
I saw Carew in the sea. That because I see Carew on top piece of board. And we thought that he would have swum ashore. But then when the other boys went off, then the boat then said it didn't see.
Another fisherman showed me Carew a way out about 300 yards out on a piece of wood, or like a house top or something like that, out there shaking, and nobody was around with a boat with an engine or anything to go from.
And while Attorney General Simmons got on the sensitive subject, it almost brought him to tears.
There will come a time when we may have to treat his situation as a fatality, and personally that's a hard one for me because I know Carew.
A concrete step painted in blue and a few galvanized scraps was the only reminder of Carew's humble dwelling. In the background, the Coast Guard perused the ocean, but in vain. Tim Slinger, CBC News.
Disaster relief officials had earlier said he had been rescued, but it now appears they might have been tragically mistaken. The Bow Wow Man, or whom some refer to as Fatru, is missing, the great Carew. Across the island, tears are being shed for the man that brought smiles to the lips of so many through his songs. 61-year-old Dennis Blackman, a man who thrilled Barbadian audiences with his different style of singing. CBC's Derek Lowe reports.
Barbadian public, I want to thank you. Because without your support, there's nothing I can do.
And it is this Barbadian public that's crying out, where is Carew? He would first have been known to Barbadians from the popular show Abed's Opportunity Knocks.
Abided with me when I saw the bee, and it went into...
And he sprang into the national spotlight when he sang Bow Wow Wow. And this most recent one.
Snails in the grass, dirty as
A man with a different talent. Derek Lowe, CBC News.
Welcome to the CBC Evening News for Saturday, August 5th. I'm Sophia Alsop. Today's search for Calypsonian the Great Carew came to a sad end. Neville Blackman, 61, was pulled from the waters off Weston St. James just after 11 this morning. CBC's Michelle Arthur reports.
To alert officials at the Whole Town Police Station that a body was floating in the waters off Weston. Coast Guard officials then removed the body from the water, assisted by 2 fishermen from a nearby boat. The body of the Calypsonian arrived at the Coast Guard Willoughby Fort headquarters at 20 after 1, dressed in a mustard pants and a bright yellow t-shirt. The body was inspected by medical doctors, and relatives were summoned to Willoughby Fort for the grim task of identification, made even more difficult by the battering the body apparently took during its 2 days in the water. The body was then taken to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital before going to the 2 Sons Funeral Home. The discovery of the body brought the end to 72 hours of speculation that he could still be alive after his home was swept away by floodwaters on Thursday. The great Carew, dead at 61. Michelle Arthur, CBC News.
Thank God, the community has picked up. It's a little different now, but it's still Weston. And Weston will always be a place that I love because it is here that I grew up. It is here that I became acquainted with the world. It is here where my best experiences, childhood experiences, are brought to view and brought into my memory. And I look back upon Weston with a lot of love.
Wonderful. We are all pleased to learn of that. This has been Mind Community, Weston St. James. I'm Sherwood McCaskie. Here's a special invitation for you to join us next week at the same time as we continue the celebration with the folks of the Garden Church of God. Goodbye.